Hello, good evening, and welcome to Upfront. Today, the focus for our conversation is what's the brewing tension around the creation of regions. Fact, both the NDC and the MPP in the run-up to the 2016 election promised creation of regions. Fact, this government decided to start that particular process after it was said to have delayed it for some time. Fact, we've gone through virtually all the processes stipulated in the Constitution for us to have this happen. Then, why is there opposition still to this particular decision? My guest today is a deputy minister in the ministry tasked purposefully, and I'm sure maybe after the creation of regions they'll do something else, to do regional reorganization and the creation of regions. The Honorable Martin Ejim-Mensah is my guest. I hope you're doing well, sir.
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm doing great.
Excellent.
Let's start from this point. Now there is opposition, right, from the Volta region through to the northern region, but this opposition did not surface right from the beginning. So what went wrong?
Well, it's also important to situate this question. There is concern in a particular portion of the Volta region involving 4 traditional areas, i.e. Central Kofi, Likpe, Lolobi, and Akpafu. That's quite different from to say there is, if you like, controversy or dissent across. And I believe, in keeping to a position as a ministry, we have decided to take the position that don't respond directly to these eminent and revered chiefs who have been our major stakeholders and would genuinely have some concerns at some point. But what you try not to do is to throw out the issues, the responses, no matter how you think a position is wrong or it's not what is being stated. But very soon, pretty soon, I think the ministry would want to put the cards out and we'll appreciate the picture. It's important and instructive to note that the areas where these concerns are coming from, for instance, the SAL, the 4 traditional areas who are within the Hohoi districts, and where these concerns are coming from, you have leading figures who had attended the Commission of Inquiry hearings or sittings and had rooted for this. So the question now comes in support of that. Dr. Obeda Samoa is a key leading figure.
Oh, okay.
He attended the Commission's hearing in Ho. There was a subsequent one with the current national organizer of the NDC, Kofi Adams, again with Mr. Obeda Samoa at Nsuta, near Jasikan, all during the Commission's hearings. So what went wrong? These are issues that we will be looking at. But I'm saying that we do not think it's right to be responding to some of these things coming from our eminent and revered chiefs. It doesn't show respect. It's not in good spirit for our work. And so we have a way of going about it.
I get your point.
Yeah.
Now, let's start from the beginning because it's critical. What was there a need to create more regions beyond the bringing governance down to the people mantra?
Well,
what was the crux
yes,
of having to create more regions?
I believe this is my second major extensive interview with you. The first one centered more around this. And that was when the work was even about to begin. Having gone round the cycle, as you just enumerated, almost all the various processes being followed to the latter. I don't know whether it would be good to still want to go around like you are not justifying the creation.
No, it is because
that has been justified. I mean,
that issue still comes
whether
to the front burner.
not, but it's important to appreciate that whether or not there was a need to create these regions are part of issues that came before the Commission of Inquiry. The views that went there were for or against. And the Commission's work and the subsequent report that came in upheld the need to create these regions. So I thought that for now, for our purpose, that has been established. At least anybody who felt there was no need, including yourself, may have availed.
I didn't have an opinion.
Yes, I mean,
so
on a lighter note.
opinion on that, yes.
I mean, on a lighter note, anybody who would take the position including everybody.
Yeah.
And when I say including yourself, just to suggest that you took the position.
Yeah.
But anybody, including you, may have or could have gone before the commission. The commission has evaluated all of these, for and against, and the verdict is that, in keeping to the Constitution as required, there is a need and substantial demand for the creation of these regions. We are at the point where a referendum is slated for 27th of December. And so if you now go back
27th
to
December.
rehash, 27th December,
I see.
to rehash, is there the need? Then you are certainly behind the clock.
Okay. Now, the accusation, and this has gone to even the President of the Republic of Ghana. It has been played and shared on social media all over the place. A gentleman confronted him, insisting that you are grabbing our land. You are deliberately taking land from a section of the Volta region and giving it to another grouping. The accusation might sound preposterous, but it doesn't look like many don't believe, or some people don't believe this.
But it is false. It's a fallacy. First of all, you need to appreciate what is happening. Akufo-Addo and his government have not, on their own, said they are going to create regions. They are not pushing to hang over the necks of any group of people in this country a creation of a region.
They wrote their own petitions.
That is not it. These petitions are petitions that have come to him. And we all know the history of this issue.
And the petitions
nearly
also
every government in our time.
Yes.
Absolutely. And the petitions are there visibly. The petitioners, again, are human beings who have come forth at all platforms to advocate and advance this cause, both at the regional House of Chiefs level, at the commission level, and so on. Why would anybody who still want to say that the president, and for that matter his government, is seeking to take part of people's lands? That's completely erroneous. It's not correct. It's not true. It is not a project that is being pushed by government at all costs. It's born out of petitions received by the president. And like I said, all previous governments have received same.
Okay.
The advocacy for the Oti region, if I remember, in 2003, is the last in recent history until now that it came up, almost at the cabinet level, and it couldn't pass cabinet clearance. Then it came here again. Both leading parties in parliament today have committed to doing it. The NDC emphatically, page 72, 73 of their constitution, manifesto, said if they had won in this time like this, they would have been creating. The NPP, in page 67 of their manifesto, pledged to create Western North. Subsequent to our winning, other regions who had been in this struggle over 3 decades decided to come to the president with their petitions. So under Article 5.2 of the Constitution, the president forwarded these petitions to the Council of State. And that is in keeping with the Constitution.
I get your point, but it's not curious.
So you agree with me that people who may suggest that the president and his government are forcefully taking some parts of people's lands, and again suggesting that some regions are bigger than others and that those bigger regions ought to have been divided, are completely wrong.
Yeah, because
we expect you, the media.
You are saying that nobody brought a petition from the Ashanti region.
Absolutely not.
Not at all.
No.
Not in any corner.
No.
Not any ordinary person.
Unless you have heard something. No. You get one from Greater Accra, from Eastern, from Ashanti. No.
Was it possible
Yes.
that if somebody might have brought a petition, it would not be known to the public?
It's not possible.
Is there an independent office that receives these petitions?
They go to the president, and then the president forwards same to the Council of State.
I get your point.
All this work is public knowledge. And I'm sure anybody brought a petition from Ashanti region who did not get a hearing, you may have heard it.
A person that have been out there complaining.
Absolutely. That I took a petition, was not given a hearing or was not accepted. There is no such situation.
It's instructive you note that this is not the only government that has received petitions. Previous government have done so.
Sure, almost all of them, from Rawlings to Professor Mills to John Mahama to J. Kufuor, everybody.
Why does this government feel that he has to obey this constitutional mandate?
It's an obligation on you as president. If you read the Constitution, you are mandated under law as president when you are seized with these petitions to forward same to the Council of State. You necessarily have to trigger those constitutional processes. The fact that somebody didn't do it yesterday may not be right or will not be a good grounds to say, why is another person who feels that I cannot violate the law.
But
In any case,
okay.
what is the point? These petitions are development-led. All the petitions that came make the case that we want governance closer to us, we want development speeded, and we think that this will be a major boost to that development drive. And so it's all development-led.
I'll query that in a second.
Right.
Was the presidency equally minded by the fact that previous president could have decided not to do so or turned a blind eye on these petitions for a reason? Were these reasons explored?
The president engaged with all former heads of state.
Okay.
You may recall that somewhere earlier there was this meeting at the presidency where the living former heads of state attended with the president. I can tell you that from the briefing that we've had, one of the issues that featured prominently in that discussion was this. I'm not sure any of the former presidents had anything against it per se.
Okay.
In any case, one of the presidents or former president who attended that meeting had, in his manifesto, in months back, promised.
Of course, 2016 NDC
Yes.
said that's
and
true.
so there couldn't have been anything, I mean, against it on their part. The fact that you may not have
struggle to
acted,
tell people, do you struggle to distinguish the two? So we promised as a party to do this. You brought petitions. Do you struggle to tell people that it's from the people's petition we are doing this and not because of our manifesto promise?
we don't struggle, and we should not struggle. It's
Because
part of the,
it's just like, because it syncs with your manifesto promise, that's what you want to do. You've always had the idea of doing so in the first place.
it's something we believe in, that
Okay.
the resources of this country must be fairly and evenly distributed.
And there's evidence
It's
that
again
suggests
a
that
fact.
creation of regions does
It's
so.
again a fact. Documents abound to show that in a distribution of our national cake, some areas tend to be more, if you like, favored than the others.
Areas within the same region.
Within the same region.
Okay.
One of the issues that have been up in various literature is sheer distance. Okay? If you take, for instance, the land mass of northern region, about 70,000 square kilometers, compared to Greater Accra, which is less than 4,000. And each of these is supposed to be a region manned by one regional coordinating council. One is almost 10 times or more the size of the other, yet the same structure of administration. Obviously cannot be right.
And by this, the population doesn't matter because the land size of the northern region
Population
is
matters.
not comparable
For me, in as much
to
as
the
people
number of
live,
people living in the
no, for me, in
Greater
as,
Accra region.
it may not. I mean, in as much as people live in an area called citizens of this country, they deserve equal treatment, like anybody.
I get you.
The amenities that we enjoy as Ghanaians, they deserve it in equal measure.
And the argument was then that, they are regions, right? What is it in the creation of OT region that would make somebody who lived in Nkwanta, some small village near Nkwanta, feel that they are being catered for when their district assembly has not lived up to expectation in the first place?
There is a huge difference between a district assembly and what an RCC is. In any case, if you go to the local governance structure, you would appreciate that the shared services that you access at a district office or a district assembly are completely different from what you access at a municipal, metropolitan, or at the RCC level.
Okay. I get your point. Yeah, that's true.
There are decentralized services at the district. You can never find, at the region, you can never find.
So there can be a passport office in the region. But I've not seen a district with a passport office before.
That's right. But I'm saying that the decentralized offices under a metropolitan or an RCC, Regional Coordinating Council, you may not find in the district.
Okay.
The Local Governance Act places some services, some duties on the Regional Coordinating Council that you cannot find within the districts. In fact, one critical role of regional coordinating councils is to coordinate these districts.
Oh, well, that's what the books, the laws say.
That's what it is. And so you necessarily need, no matter how many districts that you want to create and litter around, you still need some coordinating capacity to be able to make them efficient, make them effective, and deliver the services that they are required to
And the local government ministry cannot do this, or has not been doing this effectively.
The local government ministry is a mother ministry of all these districts, municipalities, metropolis, including the RCC. But here we are saying, or you cannot equate that function to the mother ministry. We are saying that there is too much at stake that needs to be tidied up.
Okay.
And you need to try and ensure in bringing that efficiency, you situate the structures, the required structures that you need to get that efficiency, that effectiveness of the service and so on and so forth.
And you still reject the argument that this is more bureaucracy, more people to pay, more people on the
when you say
more burden on the ordinary person.
I don't agree to that.
Yes.
For instance, I have come across
the regional minister's office.
But if just
regional minister's staff.
Bear with me in a minute.
Yeah.
There are people who have argued, like you said, and to them, go and enlarge the capacity of the district to be able to play the role that the RCC will do.
Yeah.
If that were to be pursued, it will necessarily inure to more staff.
Not the right staff.
More staff. I mean, you can, if you want to go and enlarge the capacity of the district to play the role.
If you, for example, elect a very competent district chief executive who is in charge of the district, who is a competent manager, who knows his left from right, who can put in, who can do more with little.
It's not necessarily the person. I'm saying that the services that one gets at the RCC level, if you want to break that down and put at the district level, it obviously requires more structures, more personnel, more resources, and so on. So it's the same argument we are making up here.
Okay.
Except that somebody may not be comfortable with having an RCC because a regional minister will be occasioned.
Yeah.
A deputy will be occasioned. But I'm saying that if you did not create a region and have those personnel, and you decide to go and enlarge the capacity of the district, you still would have to take on more staff, more resources to be able to push
that. And to be clear, they will not be paid as high as a regional minister will be paid. That's important too.
They will not be paid as much as...
yes, a regional minister will be paid.
So then is the problem of this whole arrangement in creating regions, the fact that two people will be a minister and a deputy, is that what the problem is?
More than that, but adding more people to Article 7
no, but I'm
is
saying
pretty
that,
also interesting for people.
But I'm saying that...
And that the fact that
whether you have a minister...
very worrying for
yes, but whether you have a minister and a deputy or not,
if
you went and created or expanded the structures at the district level, you are transferring basically the same service there, and it requires the same amount of people. If somebody is to be at the district and play the role that the regional minister or his deputy will be playing, and the system is such that they require the levels of remuneration that they would have, that is also possible. Now, but the principle is that not having a region doesn't mean that there are less, there's less cost if you are at a district. It's virtually the same thing.
I get your point. Now, let me get this clarified too.
Right.
There are those who have said, you were director of elections.
Right.
Your substantive minister was also general secretary of the political party.
Right.
You appreciate and understand elections.
Right.
You know demarcation very well.
Right.
You know the various nooks and crannies of this country. It is based on this that many say, no, you cannot rule out the fact that this was deliberate act for a political gain.
By our shared presence in this ministry? Because
not shared presence, by the competence of the people put in the ministry.
I disagree.
Really?
I mean, in a...
It never crossed your mind?
It should not be an issue.
You've never heard this allegation before?
I haven't.
Really?
I haven't. And if I heard it, I'll be surprised. Because, I mean, creating regions, districts, constituencies have always been done. It has not, for any reason, been that a district or constituency created under a particular government becomes their reserve. No. In 2012.
And there's evidence suggesting a subsequent election that either lose it the next time or it doesn't even yield to your benefit.
The NDC created 45 constituencies. We won the majority against them. We won 23, they won 22 or so. And it's never been the case. So I fail to appreciate that fear. In any case, drawing boundaries in this instance or under this exercise has been the work of the Commission of Inquiry, which is not a partisan group.
Supervised
we
by
all
the ministry.
saw but their work was completely independent of this ministry.
I see.
Completely. And you know what Commission of Inquiries are.
Yeah.
They are not meant
Justice
to be
body,
under the
right,
control of anybody. But they had that constitutional mandate to draw and define these boundaries, so to speak. And so I fail to see how, in fact, you may be surprised to know that in their public deliberations, the ministry, as in myself and the minister, stayed out. Completely.
In the public domain?
In the public, no. I mean, everywhere. Their work was obviously in the public.
Okay, I get you.
Meetings at the former seat of government,
Yeah.
and then the regions, you would have no evidence of our involvement or participation in those public discussions. And that's why the decisions were taken.
So what I hear you saying is that it is by sheer coincidence that your very self, Director of Elections,
anybody at all could have come to this
and the former General Secretary, very competent one at that, who understands the demarcations of this country,
well, I think it's just
were the ones put in this ministry.
Because they did not do the decisions on the boundaries or where gets demarcated and so on and so forth. In any case, the petitions necessitating the setup of this ministry and the subsequent work are petitions brought by some groups of people, chiefs and people from areas who were not coached by us to bring them out of which the various processes were triggered. I mean, we all do know for 3 decades where these areas have been proposed by some people to be called regions. So
it was based on that knowledge that you proposed in your manifesto what you wanted to do, right? As in the regions you wanted to create.
Yes, I mean, so we all know that contentious subject, very dear to some groups of people. So the NPP received a petition before the election, I mean, before our manifesto was done. And so you realize that the Northwest or Western North region found expression in page 67 of the manifesto. But that triggered interest among other people who also in the past have been in this advocacy for regions. So the president committed during his campaign rounds, various areas, OT, the Hafu areas, which have all done this for 30 years, that, well, we will look at it because we've committed to look at Western North. So when we get the mandate, we'll trigger the necessary constitutional processes to be able to do that. And subsequent to our winning, whether he was going to do that or not, the petitions actually came to back the earlier demands. But the most important thing is that the president did not act on 5.3 of the Constitution, Chapter 2, which enabled him, whether there was no petition anyway, to have proceeded. He did not. He went under 5.2. And all the petitions were evaluated, seen, read,
understood
by the Council of State,
understood to be in tandem with the promise.
Absolutely. So I fail to see how politics is much to do with this whole thing. I think it's not. And more so, I'm wondering what structures would have represented, i.e., insertion of the ministry or the body that would have worked on this, should the NDC have come to power. Obviously, would have had known political operatives working in one sector or the other. But at the end of the day, what is important is how was it done? Transparent, non-partisan? Does it make sense? And is it in keeping with the historical petitions that have come? I think we did justice on that one.
We'll come back to this conversation. My guest today is a deputy minister in the Regional Reorganization Ministry, the people charged to oversee the creation of new regions. We'll get to know the actual roadmap from today to the time that the regions are created. Then, if they are created, what next? That's the next set of questions you'll hear on Upfront after this break. You welcome back. This is Upfront. My guest today is the man who's been charged to make sure that we create regions in the country. Well, it's becoming a tall order by the day and I'm given to understand that the suits are piling up against this particular decision. At the last count, what was the final number?
Well, if I'm not wrong, I think this morning I've been made aware of one that came in. Is it yesterday?
Oh, I see.
So, yes.
Fresh suit.
Yes, and it's all about issues about who votes in this referendum. Interestingly, the goalposts keep shifting.
And that's one observation that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
The conversation from the beginning was, it's not necessary. Why do create regions when even districts have failed to do the function they're supposed to do? When you're not doing devolution, why do you create to compound the current bureaucracy at the lower ends? But it sounds to me now that the biggest complaint, and if it's found especially in law and the suits that have been put out there, the biggest complaint is, why do you leave some of us out when we are deciding the future of this region anyway?
Now, what does that tell you? That should tell you something.
I mean, people are beginning to, it looks like they're changing the opposition to it from, we want to be part of it to decide what happens, and not necessarily, we don't think it's necessary. That's what it tells me.
I mean, the inference that I make from that is that I am from Techiman. So I decide that government must give me drinking water, potable drinking water. And by some logic, it comes to be that for government to give me that amenity that I request for in Techiman, a group of people in Accra must decide whether or not I deserve to be given that amenity.
Apples and oranges in this case.
Absolutely not.
No, I'm saying that you are doing the apples and oranges conversation.
No.
Because this one is in the same region.
No, but that's what it is.
For example,
it's not the same region. I mean, if you by law,
because what you're saying is
very
far. You're talking about
it's not far.
And
it's not far.
Okay,
if you let me advance
assuming you are from
I would
Techiman North, and the people in Techiman South are the ones complaining.
By precedent and by law, it has never happened. That's the point I was trying to make.
Would anything change if it happens?
If it's not the right in principle, why should it be?
Is there any law against allowing, let's say, the people in the entirety of the voter region vote for whether or not there should be a region?
There's no law that says all of them must vote.
Is there any law against it?
There's no law that says all of them.
So it's not prescribed in law?
There is a procedure in law.
Okay.
And that procedure has been applied. The procedure you can find in 5.4 of Chapter 2. And it says that the Commission of Inquiry, as part of their work, would have to determine the areas to be considered as new regions.
Okay, yeah.
And that also includes people where the election must be taking place. If they decide that this is where the election must be taking place, obviously goes without saying who must vote.
So, by this understanding,
if I can finish,
okay,
there is nowhere in the Constitution of 1992, as I've read, I'm not a lawyer, but I've taken the time to read, and there is nowhere you hear all the claims by leading figures accomplished in law, so to speak, or so said, and some have even threatened to challenge, flouting that provision that says that persons affected by the decision are the ones to vote. But you don't find that expression anywhere in the Constitution. There's only one provision which outlines the procedure in determining the boundaries where the elections must be taking place. And even that constitutional duty is placed squarely under the Commission of Inquiry, which in this case is what happened. I don't know how anybody will want to get into challenging that, having followed explicitly under the law those provisions.
And some have argued that there's a spirit to the law too. The spirit mostly is what you want to adhere to when you want to make it more consultative, make it more
granted, that is why people are before the court. Okay, the law rests in the bosom of our judges, we are told. They will look at it, they will evaluate it, and it's their work. So people are free to take the positions that we are hearing, but I think it's wrong, and it's also not even in keeping with precedents around. We have mentioned various precedents which some are not comfortable with and think we should not. But in 1956, in this country, when the decision came for the then British Togoland, to be voted to decide whether to join Ghana or to remain We know how it happened. It wasn't the whole of Togoland that voted. In 1949, Karachi, then in the northern region, opted to join the south, in this case, Volta region. It was not the whole of the northern region that voted. It was Karachi that voted to join. We've named various examples around the world. Scotland, Sudan. I mean, it has never happened that a group of people decide. I think where we are missing the point is we need to appreciate that there is a certain burden of proof on those who make the demand. Because the Constitution doesn't want to make it such that anybody decides to throw those requests and then it has to happen.
Yeah.
So there are constitutional thresholds that even of you, the people who validly are required to vote, not less than 50% must turn out. And if you achieve the 50% threshold, not less than 80%. I get the impression that in the minds of the framers of the Constitution, what they seek to do is to place that absolutely. And then if you come under Article 5, under Chapter 2, it's also made explicit under the work of the Commission of Inquiry that you are supposed to establish the need and substantial demand for the creation of these regions. So it is not an easy exercise. And the burden of proving that rests with those making the demand.
So, to be fair, this can go
otherwise,
way,
otherwise, then there would have been no need to put the constitutional thresholds.
This can go in that
because
way.
Everybody votes.
That people can reject or accept these new regions, right?
Yes.
People can reject that.
Yes, if you don't meet the thresholds.
They may also accept it.
Sure.
How much are we spending on it?
On the exercise?
Yes.
You're back to your question the second time.
No, this is how much are
Tomorrow,
we
the Electoral Commission is undertaking a public a speaking engagement with the public, media specifically. I expect that's one of the issues to come up.
Because $1 billion? Is it up to $1 billion?
I cannot speak for them.
$1 billion?
I cannot speak for them. But I'm sure these.
So where's the budget line coming from on the Electoral Commission?
The Electoral Commission. No, we are working
the ministry is going to be funding that.
No, not the ministry. They are state-funded agencies who are part of the stakeholder body. So you have NCC, you have Electoral Commission, you have Information Services Department. They all, under their annual budget estimates, subject to Parliament, have some provision for this exercise. And so you don't have some bulk money from the ministry per se being put into this exercise, no.
But you have a budget line for it?
As a ministry? Or
yes, as a ministry.
For our work. I mean, part of our work is administrative. And so you have workers' salaries and so
How much were you giving for the creation of regions?
Oh, for the last budget, it was I think about $1 million and 1.4 million cities.
1.4 million.
CapEx, buying vehicles to run the ministry's work. And you know that's...
No, I'm talking about, was there a specific priority project?
You couldn't have budgeted for creation of regions because it is not wholly your work.
I get the
You
point.
don't organize elections. You don't do the education. Those are other
departments' responsibility.
So as I'm saying, you couldn't have even gone to ask for money to go and create regions as a ministry.
But that's why this ministry exists in the first place.
But I'm saying that if you understand how the ministry's work is, then you would appreciate that we will not go paying debts of Electoral Commission.
I get your point. The question
so to that extent, I can tell you,
you as a ministry internally,
right?
Did you put there a budget line that says for the creation of regions, this is how much we wish to spend?
No. You engage in sensitizations, engagement, stakeholders, meeting chiefs, meeting media people, meeting Electoral Commission officials, various other regional engagements. Basically, to touch base with stakeholders, meeting members of parliament. That's basically what you're doing.
But as part of government in its entirety, did we have in mind how much we're going to spend on the creation of regions prior to the 2018?
Government had, but I'm saying that you need to appreciate the components that come together to achieve this exercise.
And there was no
in other
umbrella?
In the other sectors, no, you cannot have it because of the structure that I'm defining here.
So each department then would budget on its own?
Yes, that's what happened.
I get your point.
That's what happened. So you don't have, as like Ministry of Roads and Highways, Works and Housing, intending to do these projects and then costing it and say, under our budget, this is what we are doing. No. Here, it lies in different parts.
But
We are not an election management body.
You reject the claim that it will cost us $1 billion Ghana cedis to do this. Would you reject that?
Is that one of the social media pranks that is going on?
It's a prank.
Yes,
but to the extent that you don't know what the other ministries put together.
I read this again from
You've read it before?
I've read it.
Yeah.
It's one of the social media comments. No, I listened to it again on radio.
Okay.
By a so-called leading lawyer, so celebrated for it, and he put these concerns. So I had to take up a challenge and try to know. Then he said, well, he also read it around. And
he also said he read it around.
Yeah, he read it around.
Who is this lawyer, to be clear?
It's not fair to
Oh, but the person has made it
but
public.
I mean,
There's nothing wrong with
if you check the records on
a
Asempa FM, he was there. It's public knowledge. He made these comments and said that, well, he had heard it. But you leave it at that. It's not true. The election
you can tell me
doing
it's
here,
not true. But what
it's
you
not
cannot
true.
tell me is what the exact amount.
I'll tell you. I mean, the election here involves 45 districts,
Okay.
not the whole country. The only inclusion or addition is the 4 traditional areas. Santro, Kofi, Akpafu, Lipe, Lolobi.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's 45 districts. The election that we are going in is not the elaborate one that you and I know, where I and Raymond are contesting an election, and then we have to go through
Campaigning and all that.
picture printing and so on. No.
But I have to
The ballots
to get
here,
people on board.
Yes, but that's not our work.
Really?
We are not asking for a region. It is you who is petitioning
You
for
put it in your manifesto that there should be creation of regions.
We lend support to
if it doesn't happen, it becomes a blot on your unfulfilled campaign promise.
Maybe if we had gone under Article 3, under Article 5(3),
But that notwithstanding.
then we would have, no, here we are not mandated to go and campaign for it. As a ministry, as government, we are facilitating,
Yeah.
okay, achieving that petition.
It's a nice
and
word,
also,
but to our intent,
it's a
we are
manifesto.
at the forefront of it.
No.
The defense is coming from the
No,
ministry.
you need
I've
to be,
not heard
no, you need to be guided, otherwise you get it wrong. Because
I've not heard the Bobe Commission.
despite our position,
Yes.
okay, of supporting this regional creation thing, it is not an initiation from us. We did not initiate it. I've told you already that the president could have decided to act on Article 5(3).
They
didn't do that.
That would
It's
have
5(2).
sounded like he's
So then-
people to do
then
so.
we
No
would have
smart
had to-
politician would have done that actually.
No, you could have. I mean, for a good cause. It's virtually the same processes, except that the fact remains that you are not sponsoring that petition.
Yes.
But under that circumstance, it would have been our duty to mobilize resources and go and campaign. So you would have seen me in the trenches, campaign for yes.
So I've heard the president on 4 different occasions in the voter region say it is good for you. We are not there taking anything from you. We are not going to deprive you of development. These are pro-creation of region in that particular region commentary.
But those are facts.
The president can decide not to talk about this because he wants to leave it to the people.
No, campaigning, the kind of campaigning you and I are talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a political animal. So, I mean, that vigorous campaign, outreach, voter education, and so on, is all we are talking about here. Here, you are asked to justify your support for it.
Okay.
And then you speak to that. And I agree with the president. It's a fact that in all that is happening, that stretch of landmass called voter region, you are not making any addition to it.
Yeah.
Same landmass, you are doubling almost all the amenities you find there. Voter region has a regional hospital. You are going to add another regional hospital to it. All the various regional facilities that you have defining a region, you are going to add. Even the Council of National House of Chiefs. Every region has 5-member representation. Now you're going to get 10. So same landmass.
5 from OT and 5 from the
Absolutely.
voter region.
So same landmass. We are doubling your project, your development. What's wrong with that? Government has to be applauded for facilitating this development-led initiative. And that's where the president is coming from. So you are forced to defend or explain the benefits to be derived. But that's, for me, is completely different from taking on the burden to make sure this thing succeeds because you are sponsoring the petition. That's different.
I'm tapering down, but you were talking to me about the specific cost involved. You started with how much the Electoral Commission was supposed to spend on 45 districts plus 4 traditional areas.
I'm saying tomorrow they are having a media engagement. And,
no, but you know the figure. I want to know
I don't
from
know.
you.
I'll hear it from the Electoral Commission.
Then you cannot boldly tell me that it's not $1 billion.
It's not. I mean, I do know it's nowhere near. I'm an elections person. I understand elections.
So from
you
your
cannot
own projections,
you cannot create
from your own
from our projections. It's nowhere near.
Not from a factual base of the evidence you've seen.
Let me tell you. First of all, the Electoral Commission is not having to procure equipment, as would have been in any other election. In our national electoral calendar, 2 years to every election you prepare. So the Electoral Commission must procure equipment, verification devices, and so on to conduct elections. In this instance, all of that cost doesn't come in because the nation already has some there. The Electoral Commission would have to service them and put them to use for the next level, district level election next year, 2019, and then the subsequent election in 2020. All we have done is to test, lift what is in stock, and install them to do registration.
As a pilot of...
As a pilot.
Like pilot would have done.
Preparation towards 2020. No equipment have been bought for this process. No. You are only going to put a sheet of paper, black and white, yes or no. It's not like going to print, what do you call it, pictures. No. So in my mind of elections, it cannot be. Let me admit, the cost that will come here is the recruitment of election assistants. Yes. But that in nowhere, under no stretch of imagination, can throw the budget to 1 billion. It cannot happen. It's not possible. Unless you don't understand the process. 45 districts? Oh, come on. 4,037 polling stations. Then what will you spend under 29,002 polling stations as a country?
Without sounding presumptuous in this particular case, and without seeking in any way to influence the current case in court, that's likely a major stumbling block to holding this election this year, isn't it?
What is that?
The current cases in court.
Not at all, not at all. I mean, these cases predate the registration of newly turned 18s, for instance. It came off.
Okay.
Okay? Today, 23rd, was to have been the day of determining, I'm told, an injunction application or something, but the court didn't sit.
Yeah.
It was sit on the 31st. And so all the processes are ongoing. The Electoral Commission is going to go ahead tomorrow, in spite of the new one that is suggesting that the Commission may have been in contempt because there is...
It is proceeding with an action when there is already some action in court.
But that's what somebody's filed. There's no order to that. So, again, there is no stumbling block at all. We are in full gear.
Until the matters are determined, are you still going to go ahead with the
Yes,
elections?
we're going ahead. Absolutely. This ministry is working.
Would that not be...
I've come to work today.
Would that not be, for example, would you not be predetermining?
Well, these are matters of law.
Yes, I get
and
you.
we are advised by lawyers.
The interpretation in this case is pretty clear.
No. These are matters of law.
Yes.
And we are advised by lawyers. As far as we understand per their advice, there's no legal blocks. Yes, so we are proceeding. Our lawyers are the Attorney General.
And whichever determination it comes to will not be injurious to the interests of the parties in court.
Well, that one is I don't think so. Because so far, what's happening? The position is that let everybody vote. Is that not what it is?
Yeah.
So if the courts decide, then we'll know.
It
hurts nothing.
If you do an election like happened in the central region, the Afenyomakin case, and the court has to cancel it, that would be huge cost to the state. Won't you have to wait for the matters to be determined first?
No. You cannot. I mean, those are decisions of the courts.
Yes.
It may go this way or that way.
I get your point,
you
but
can't help it.
Would you not have saved more in this case?
You wouldn't have. Under the Afenyomakin case that you mentioned, it's completely different from this one. That one, preparations that have been done to conduct elections, i.e. printing of materials and so on, was without somebody. So the court says, go and include the person.
In this case, the court has to say that go and ask the rest of the people to vote on the same matter.
Then if the court, that ruling comes, you only be adding to what you have.
Yeah,
unlike...
You don't do first elections, then you have to now let everybody vote again.
No, I'm saying...
No,
I'm saying that these matters are slated for determination 31st. okay, of this, of October. And so a head snapping. If after 31st the court says include them, add them, you're only going to add two.
And the electoral commission would have
one. Yes.
would have the opportunity and the space to be able to do the same timelines you've given it.
When they get it, they'll tell us. But I'm just trying to make a direct reference or direct comparison with what the example you cited.
The case.
It doesn't hurt at all. That one, you had to set aside everything you've done.
You have to print a new ballot paper.
Absolutely. But here it's not. 2 people want to vote. 3 are saying others. So if the court says add them, you only add 2 to 3 and get 5, and they vote. So it's completely, it's not a problem. It doesn't hurt anything. But I don't think, in my mind of minds, that that will succeed. I mean, you see the Constitution there. I have been reading it. I'm not a lawyer, but I've been reading it.
But your interpretation of the Constitution might not be that of the Supreme Court.
I'm hopeful that mine. I'm hopeful that the one that I get here is
the same that they will give you out there.
Now, especially as there are precedents around, for me to know, never in history has what is being requested for happened. It's never happened before.
Has it ever been requested before?
Oh yes, I mean it may have. Why not? It has in recent history. Yes, it has. In the case of Scotland, yes. Some people thought no, why not? But it was not as maybe as
in here in Ghana.
As it's emerging. Even this one, you realize that it's just a minority group. Okay.
Including powerful chiefs. You cannot underrate the powerful chiefs. The chairman of the president of the National House of Chiefs today is saying that you cannot do a skewed interpretation of the Constitution to leave the rest of the voter region out. Others are supporting him.
It's good
he has
to know.
their Sogli states.
It's good to know, but it's also important to state that Togbi has been one individual who has been very much part and parcel of this whole project.
That's why his feedback is important.
As member of the Regional House of Chiefs, he participated in the Commission of Inquiry work. As member of Council of State, he was seized with the petitions, contributed to the decisions that came and okayed the president to go. And that decision is what triggered the setup of the Commission of Inquiry.
And of the opinion, he was aware that this was going to be the voting pattern. If I can finish,
I'm saying that if you read the very article that sets up the Commission of Inquiry, it tells who determines who votes. It is strange. It can never have missed anybody. The Council of State, who received the petitions, had a briefing or a presentation from us, my minister. I was there. Everybody was there. And then that council, eminent council, brings a verdict, okaying it and asking the president to proceed with the setting up of a commission of inquiry.
He could have opposed the element there.
Fine, but majority carries the vote.
Yes.
Subsequently, this same commission of inquiry had discussions or deliberations with National House of Chiefs, incidentally chaired by Togbe. However, I've learned of the concerns is raised, so we will look at it. But
you consider it?
We'll look. I mean, the ministry will look at.
Would you take these concerns
as what?
As relevant,
important? He's raising issues in the media. I've been made aware this morning. I've told my minister this is what I've picked up in the media, and so we will sit and it's worth a thought. You have to look at it. You cannot disregard it. But it's important to underscore the fact of where we are coming from, and everybody's involvement, to where we are.
So he knew way back that this is going to happen.
But I'm saying that
is it too late to include
the Constitution? Views? The Constitution's decision of who determines is there.
I get you, but is it too late to include his views?
I'm not the president. I don't decide. I'm not the deciding authority.
No, but is the ministry then going to forward these concerns to the president? The concerns expressed by Togbe.
The presidency may be aware.
Okay, but
he spoke publicly.
Finally, on this particular note, is there a fear by those of you who are in charge of this process that if you open it up, you will lose out? There will be a massive rejection of this particular...
It's not a fear. How do you do that? Under what legal dispensation? There's a constitutional prescription of what to do. Are you going to sidestep that and do what you want?
Will it hurt anybody if that happens? If there's open up to everybody?
It hurts the law. The law says do A. You cannot go and do B. The law is explicit in the prescription of...
And in this case, your interpretation of the law, to be clear.
Well...
Togbe believes that it will be very narrow.
So let's see what the court will say.
I see.
Yeah, let's see what the court will say. I think that the person who chaired the Commission of Inquiry, let's not forget, is an eminent, seasoned jurist.
Yes, he's a former Supreme Court judge.
Yes. So he has his game.
But
He knows
Justice
his game.
Bobe, even on the Supreme Court, expressed his opinion. There are other opinions on the
Fine.
Supreme Court that disagreed with him on several
Fine.
occasions.
But the good thing is that we have the apex court, Supreme
Yeah.
Court, going to pronounce on this matter. So it's just a matter of having to wait. But I don't think that what is happening now can be wrong. Okay, given the precedents around, given who sat before this committee and so on, I don't think. However, that doesn't stop anybody from expressing
After you create regions, what would this ministry be doing?
That's for the president to decide. Okay, but don't also forget that our mandate is regional reorganization and development. If you create the region, developments must happen.
Oh, okay.
And so, as far as I'm concerned, if development hasn't ceased, then you are there. But altogether, that is in the wisdom of the president.
Budget consultations have ended. Budget will be read next month. We are told the second week of next month. How much are you giving? Because even if not all...
Those decisions have not been done.
Oh,
yes.
It barely...
Yes.
3 weeks to the reading of the budget?
Those decisions are not
you don't know how much the ministry...
You know how much any ministry has been allocated?
I am told some of them have been cleared out. But you've done consultations, right?
I'm saying
have you
been told specifically how much any ministry has been allocated?
Oh, I've been given an indication of some of them and how much they have been given.
Are you sure?
I'm very convinced.
And what's your source? Finance minister?
No, very...
Finance minister?
These are deep-rooted sources in the government of the Republic of Ghana.
Well, I'm sure we'll see. We'll see.
But
I'm sure what you are trying to arrive at...
your budget.
What you are trying to arrive at in a global picture is how much money
you have for this development that these ministries are going to, or these various...
that one is more not a problem because if the whole country's money were to be divided into 4, and we say, look, we are kind enough to help our other brothers and sisters to also move up poverty lines, appreciate in development to the levels of
forgive me, because my time is up. This question ought to be answered.
Which one is that?
How much did you submit as a ministry that you need for your next budget?
The process is ongoing. That's why I'm telling you that nobody can. So submissions are ongoing. Budget estimates are being discussed.
How much? But you have discussed that
budget
already.
estimates are being
discussed. You started a long
discussed.
time ago. Budget estimates started in April of this year.
Yes, but it depends. How many ministers are there? We are on. We'll let the nation know when we have finally
But this should be something that you should be able to release easily.
The cost of money for the development next year.
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to tell me? I will go to maybe Works and Housing. You know, it's an inter-ministerial project. Well, you cannot do development without these mother ministries.
When the finance ministry releases the budget, I'm sure we'll get to know the details. I'll be here to interrogate whether or not you can develop these new ministries with the amount of money allocated to your ministry.
You are very cost sensitive.
Yes, but it's important, isn't it? Well,
anyway, we'll get to know when we get there.
Thank you so much, Honorable. I appreciate your time today, and thanks for opening your doors to us. Well, folks, that's where we tie the nice ribbons on today's edition of Upfront. Wait for the various regions when they are created. We'll discuss them into detail.